you want a 4K battery-powered camera. The problem? Sometimes the PIR sensor isn't in the right place and a recording isn't triggered, and you may miss something important. This has been the problem with every outdoor battery-powered camera until now. Introducing the Reolink Altas PT Ultra, which can keep an eye on everything continuously. I'm Wonder001. Let's get into it. Starting off, Reolink did reach out to me and provide me with the Altas PT Ultra for the purposes of doing a review. However, they do not get a say into the content of this video. Starting off with the basic specifications, you are looking at a camera that is 7 inches long and 3.5 inches wide, and is, as you might imagine, a pan-tilt camera because of this rotating ball head. The rest of it looks a little different than you might expect from a pan-tilt camera, but there's a reason for that. Coming to the front of our camera, you're looking at 6 LED light nodes at the top. Coming down to our lens, you have a 4K 8MP 4mm lens. You have a 1/1.8 CMOS sensor, and in conjunction with that sensor, you have an f1.0 aperture, which allows this camera to take advantage of Reolink's Color X night vision technology, which means there are no IR lights on this camera. You have LED lights if you need to brighten up an area, but Reolink's Color X technology and that crazy large aperture means that you could see color night vision with this camera with only a minimal of ambient light from a street light or from some garden lights and be able to see color at night. It is remarkable what Reolink's Color X technology is capable of. It literally can turn night into almost daytime. The video resolution that you get from this impressive lens is 3840 by 2160, and you have a field of view of 50 degrees vertical and 90 degrees horizontal with 110 diagonal. However, because this is a pan-tilt camera, the camera moves, which means you have a 355 degree horizontal rotation as well as a 90 degree vertical rotation, leaving you almost no blind spot. The way that this is mounted means that it can turn pretty much behind itself, so you're only limited to where you have this mounted as to what it can't see. And one of the beauties of this pan-tilt camera that you don't normally get on a battery-powered pan-tilt camera, auto tracking, meaning I can track people, vehicles, and animals with this, a battery-powered outdoor camera. The frames per second that you will get from this are between 15 and 10 depending on how you have it set up or time of day. It does support digital zoom. As I mentioned before, there are no IR lights on the front of this. You do have an ambient light sensor as well as a LED status light and then a microphone on the front. And then this right here, this is your PIR sensor. Notice it is shaped kind of like a smiley face, giving you a 100 degree horizontal detection field, allowing out to 33 feet of detection, which is adjustable in the application. However, if you are concerned with the PIR sensor, don't be, because of one of the other things that Reolink has packed into this camera, which is an option that you can turn on for pre-record mode. When turned on, the Altas will be in a standby mode, and when a PIR trigger happens and starts recording, the cached pre-recorded footage will be added to the event clip that's triggered by the PIR sensor, which means even if the PIR sensor is late to trigger, this camera can get you a complete capture from start to finish of an event, depending on if you want to sacrifice a little battery life to ensure that you get those videos. Coming to the bottom of our ball head here, we have our micro SD card slot. The maximum size that you can have for an SD card in here is a 512 gigabyte card, giving you plenty of space even for continuous recording. However, the Altas PT Ultra also supports Reolink's Home Hub, NAS support, and FTP upload. So you've got lots of options to save your recordings if you don't want to do it directly to the camera itself. Moving on to the top of our camera, well, you'll notice this protruding antenna on the top? Well, that's to allow you to kind of better angle this to get the best reception that you can over Wi-Fi from this, as this is a Wi-Fi based camera. However, unlike a lot of other, not even battery powered, regular standard plugged in cameras, the Altas supports Wi-Fi 6 and even has dual band support, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, which will help you stream that 4K video without any stuttering or lagging. The odd, I will call it, shape of this is partially due to the fact that this has a 20,000 milliamp internal battery, which has to go somewhere. That's built into the design of this. With that battery capacity, you could record 12 hours a day consistently for 8 days. You could also record for 24 hours a day, but you're going to cut that 8 days in half. With that, you might be wondering about charge times. Well, I found it can vary a little bit depending on if you forget to sleep the camera and it's still trying to record or send you notifications. I've got, for fully charging the 20,000 milliamp battery, anywhere from 7.5 to 9.5 hours. So yeah, it's gonna take a little bit of time to do. If we come to the underside right here, you have your speaker. Notice it's not on the ball head. And then right down here, we also have a rubberized flap. And again, the flap up here for the SD card was very thick, substantial rubber, keeping water out, as you might imagine. Down here, we have a USB-C as well as our power on and off. And yes, this has a deep channel in it because you can use a solar panel with this. I'll touch on that a little later. And then right over there, that is your charging LED status light. And coming around to the back, this is for our mounting solution. For this, there are several different methods for mounting. And then right there, that is a QR code for setup. There's one down here as well. So let me use that as a jumping off point to show you what the setup was like for the Reolink Altas. This will be setup of the Reolink Altas PT Ultra. Starting, we have the camera. And we have the Reolink application. Once you open it and have set up an account, come to the upper right hand corner and press the plus sign. Here, they're gonna have a QR code scanner. There is a QR code on the bottom of the Atlas, which we're just gonna do off camera here. And after you scan that, you can configure Wi-Fi via Bluetooth, or we can say Wi-Fi is already configured. I'm going to say that we're not currently configured. Next, it is saying to power on the device, which can be done right here. Red lights flashing. Speaker sounds.
Welcome to Reolink.
And after you go through all the languages, you can go, yep, I've heard that.
Welcome to Reolink. Please install.
And it has connected successfully. It jumped over Bluetooth. It's showing my connection. So 5G or 2G, wants me to put in the password. We'll get that going. This is both a 5G and a 2.4 gigahertz. Woo, it's starting to move. Okay, so might not want to leave that lying on a table. So here we can create a device particular password, which is something Reolink does. I'm going to say don't do the lockout, but I'm going to create a password for this camera. And once you have your password in place, simply select next. Give your device a name. I'm going to leave it at the default name just so I know what it is. And then things that you should avoid while placing this: points to frequent movement, strong sunlight, close to signal interference, and pointing at a heat source. Also pointing at a mirror. Initialization is complete. They give you a QR code for sharing, which we're not going to do. And that's it. You can see cameras hanging out right there. Now that we know what setup was like, I mentioned mounting. Reolink is great about giving you multiple different ways to mount their cameras. So let me show you the mounting options as well as what else you get with the Reolink Altas. Have our user information, operational instructions, and then operational instructions for the solar panel, which is actually thicker than for the camera itself. Reolink surveillance sticker, and then mounting template guides, and then tips, and then one more other placement guide that I missed. USB-A to USB-C cable, mounting screws, and mounting strap, which I appreciate. And then next we have the camera itself. We have Reolink solar panel, mounting arm for the solar panel, and then our mounting hardware for the solar panel. You saw, as part of the package that you get with this camera, you also get a 6-watt solar panel. And if you use the 6-watt solar panel plugged directly into the battery to keep this topped off, you could extend the usable life of the camera up to 180 days with continuous recording and pre-record as long as you do 12 hours a day. With this being an outdoor camera, It does have an IP rating of 65 and has a working temperature range of 14 degrees Fahrenheit up to 131 degrees Fahrenheit. It is also compatible with voice assistant, but only Google Home. However, all that good stuff is done through the Reolink application. So let's take a look. This is the application for the Reolink Altas PT Ultra. Here you can see I have several Reolink cameras, but the Ultra is up at the top. You'll notice that it says not connected currently because, well, this is a battery-based camera, so it's not going to stay connected constantly. You do tap into it to turn things on. In the lower left-hand side, we can see that here is our battery indicator, letting us know the amount of battery that we have left. If it was plugged into a solar charger, it would have something that looks a little more like we have down here with the Argus 4 Pro with the sun icon as well as the green and lightning bolt. In the upper right hand corner, we have a quick toggle to the settings menu as well as a quick turn on and off the PIR sensor. But we're gonna select this to get things started. Here we can see the live feed for this camera. Starting at the top, we have our audio alarm. Selecting this, I can trigger the alarm, which sounds like this. To the right of that, we have turning on our LED lights. Now, right now I'm doing this and it's kind of still bright out, but one of the things I like about Reolink is right there you can see there's a little blue at the front of the flashlight, letting me know, hey, the LEDs are on. Other companies should really pick up on that. I like that feature a lot. To the right of that, we have our grid view. Selecting this will allow me to have up to 4 cameras at once displayed in live view. Now I can select my grid view again and go back to a single, or I can just double tap the camera that I want to focus in on. Next we have the sprocket icon. That is our settings. We'll touch on that a little later. To the right of that we have our 3 dots. We can do immersive view and then picture in picture. Immersive is just going to make things stacked, as you can see here, without having any of the other buttons. So we're gonna go back to our single view. We can also do picture in picture, which is really great in that, here we go, I can have this hover around my Android phone on top of something else that I'm doing and still see what's going on outside. Coming down, we have our play pause. Because this is a battery powered camera, if I wanted to, I could pause the live feed while I'm talking to you and nothing is going to trigger this. There's going to be no motion happening. It's going to save that battery life. To the right of that, if I select this, this is my volume on and off, so my ability to hear audio from this camera. Then we have a snapshot. We'll take a still of whatever's on the screen. Video recording, if I select this, it's similar to a snapshot, but it's recording in real time anything that's happening in my live feed. And then it saves it to the playbacks area. To the right of that, we have our clear or fluent. And this, I still wish they would change the naming of, but this is 4K versus not 4K. I have it on high, which is the clear, so that I have the clearest picture. And if I come in here and we zoom in, we pinch to zoom, because remember, if we double tap, that's going to bring up that quad view. But there you can see, good idea of blades of grass, my lawnmower out there, and then you can double tap to bring it all the way out. And then to the right of that, we have expand to full screen mode. So doing that, here we go, we have full screen mode. Moving down, we have our talk options. I can select this and I will tap to talk. And now this is full duplex. It is having my voice outside. Anybody can hear me. I'm going to tap again to stop that, and then we can X that. To the right of that, we have our PTZ controls. Well, this is a moving camera. You want to be able to move it. Underneath our control dial, we have our speed. So you can actually set right from here how quickly you want things to move around. So I'm going to kind of give you an example of what things look like at 36. This is just the camera moving around. I can aim it down if I want to. I can come back up, and you can kind of hear a little bit of the sound of the camera lens moving, but it's not that big a deal. Now, this is the one thing I wish Reolink would add, is I'm at the highest point that it'll go, but it's not giving me any visual, like I'd like a red line or something there, just kind of letting me know. But that's splitting hairs, honestly. To the right of our PTZ controls is our motion point. So here we have return to motion point, reset motion point, and then auto return to motion point after a set amount of seconds. So what is return to motion point? Well, if I select this, it's going to be whatever I have set as the starting point or focal point of the camera. Reset motion point is just that. I'm resetting this motion point. And then return to motion point after 60 seconds means if it followed something, it will come back here after 60 seconds. To the right of this, we have preset points. So I can create preset points, and I can give each a name. So that's preset point 1. And then we will come back over to here. We will add preset number 2. And what this will allow us to do is toggle back and forth between these 2 presets. I can edit the name, or I can simply delete them. And then the last bit over here is calibration mode. What this will do is rotate the camera through all of its possible axes to make sure that it is in its centermost point. And here you can see it is really going around and then comes back to my center motion point. To the right of PTZ, we have our playback area. The playback area is going to show you all of your motion trigger events. So one of the great things, which doesn't make sense right now because I don't actually have a vehicle in my backyard, but if I come over here, I have people indicators. I can select one and it will have a person, and it's going to be my neighbor over there, so I don't want to show that, but just know there's a person that'll show up. You have the ability to, in the corner here, slow it down to half speed or 25. If you wanted to download this clip, you simply select the download option right here, and this is one of the great things that Reolink does in that you can adjust this clip length. So there's my neighbor coming into frame. If I don't want to see anything before or after this particular point, I can limit the size of this clip. So from that big clip, now it's only not even 13 seconds. And then I can download this clip and there we go. I have downloaded, I can share, I can select done. Then it's accessible from my phone's photo gallery. I also have the ability to filter. Maybe I only want to see vehicles or pets. Well, I don't have any of that. So let me see people. It's going to show me all the clips with people. I can come up here and I can select a day and this will show me days that it recorded something. So I can say, okay, bring me to that day. And then, well, it's not really seeing any of these things. So I'll turn everything on. Oh, nothing. Okay. I can turn off my filtering. If I wanted to change the view, let's say I'll come back to this one. These dots here will give me a grid view instead of a timeline view. And then if I'm done with that, I simply select the X icon right there. Coming in once again to the playbacks area, I will say that did not show up until 24 hours until I put it in place, which is this blue line right here. This blue line indicates this is the 24/7 recording. So after you set that up in the schedule, you will be able to see it here. And if I come back to the 16th, which is when I initially set it up, right here you can see I set it up probably about noon, but it did not start registering until 3-ish. But what I want you to see is while it does, and I can scroll along this, have 24-hour recording, it breaks it up into 5 to 6 minute clips. So if I click on this one, it will load it up. And then this is the 24-hour recording. You can scrub through this 5 to 6 minute clip. If I come over here to the 17th, you can see it's just a little afternoon right now. I can filter, and right there it says, hey, we found a person. So even though you're doing 24/7 recording, if you have the filters set up for triggers, person, pet, vehicle, etc., it will still trigger and give you a notification. So I'm scrubbing forward because I know I was towards the end of this clip. So I'm just going to roll that. And there you can see, there I am kind of walking around, testing out the 24/7 recording, but also pointing at the camera because I have the voice activated alarm on, and there you can see it is following me around. That is an example of the 24/7 recording as well as the clips that you can get in the playback area. And that is everything that we can do camera control wise. If we come up here to the settings sprocket in the upper right hand corner, this moves us into everything that we can do to configure this camera. Extra things can happen. And one of the reasons that Reolink has one of the most powerful consumer applications on the market. Right up here we have the name of our device as well as the SD card space utilized and the Wi-Fi connection right there. Selecting this will also allow us to manually update the firmware. However, there's a lot of sensitive information in there, so I'm not going to be showing you that. Coming down though, we have our pre-record mode. I have this turned on. What this will do is record a little bit before an actual motion trigger happens. Coming down, we have pre-recording stop battery level, meaning when will it stop doing the pre-recording? Well, I have it set for when the battery gets below 20% to stop. I can also select the frame rate for this, 10 or 5 by default. And if you set it for 10, it generally gives you a warning that it will eat up more battery. And then you can also have a schedule. So in my case, I have always on, or I can set a custom schedule. Coming back, we have our battery percentage. Right here, I have 98%. And then based on when I'm doing this, you can see the run times based on these red lines. And then I was charging things today, so there's no actual data for that, but this will let you know how much battery you have left. Next, we have our Wi-Fi. This will allow you to either see what Wi-Fi network you're a part of or change your Wi-Fi network as needed. Next, we have display. This is going to be a real-time picture of what the camera sees. So we can flip vertically. If we mount this upside down, we can also flip horizontally, which is something you don't see in a lot of other cameras. We have stream, so it's letting you know, here's clear, aspect ratio, frames per second, bit rate, fluent, aspect ratio, frames, etc. If I select any one of these, I can make modifications. 15 frames a second, I can go to 12 or 10. Bit rate, I can change from the default, and I can make it go higher or lower if I wanted to. All that is accessible through the stream area. Anti-flicker, you have a choice between 50, 60, other, and close. If you ever had a video that you took in another country, their LEDs flicker at a different hertz rate, that's how you'd be able to fix that. We have brightness scale. Well, this is by default what it is, but notice it's a little dark out there. If I wanted to, I can make things a little brighter just by dragging this over. You can see it's starting to get a little brighter. Just keep in mind you could wash out your video doing it this way, but just know you can change the brightness level of your video right from here. Camera name, well, right now I have it in the bottom right, but we can change its location, top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, center, and hide altogether. And the same thing with our date. Where do we want that? Also the watermark. Do you want the Reolink watermark? Yes or no? Well, we can toggle that on and off. I like having it in there. We have privacy mask. This will allow you to select a specific area that you don't want to show up on camera. It's a good feature, but as we can see, there's a problem. It's a PTZ camera. So that block will move with the camera. So good feature to have, not necessarily on a camera that moves around. Coming down, we have brightness and shadows. This will again allow you to make adjustments manually if you wanted to. I can change auto, and then I have brightness adjustments that I can make here, just like I can make shadow adjustments as well to really define and hone in on my image quality that works for me. And then if I screw things up, I can always reset. If I leave it on auto, it automatically will do everything for me. And that's just for the day mode. You can do the same thing for the colored night mode. Customizability is key in the Reolink app. Coming back out, that was all under display. We're coming to sounds. If you live in an area where you cannot record audio from your camera, this is how you can turn it on and off. And then here is your audio volume. You can also select to test your sound right from here. I will not because my neighbor's out in the backyard, so I don't want to freak them out. Moving on, we have lights. We have LED status light, which is the light in the front of the camera, letting you know that the camera is actually on. And then we have our spotlight. The color night vision that this camera possesses means, well, you could, if you have enough ambient light around, see color at night. But if you need a helping hand from the LEDs, this is how you would do it. Leave it in auto mode, and when it gets too dark out, it will turn on the LEDs for you. Or you can select to leave them off altogether. And then here we have an idea of, if I toggle this up, I'm going to give you, this is what this could look like when you use the LEDs. Some people might not want to wash out a specific area using them. Coming down, we have our PIR motion sensor. Well, do you want to have this on or off? And how sensitive do you want this to be? You also have the ability to reduce false alarms by waving objects within the motion zone, and you turn that on if you are getting too many false positives. Here we have our sensitivity. I have been testing on 80%, but we're gonna bump that up to 89. Coming back, we have detection alarm. So right now we have detection zones. Well, I don't have any detection zones right now. I could set up a detection zone for person, for pet, for vehicle. And this is a great feature to have. Again, because this is a pan-tilt camera, kind of limiting and would not recommend using unless you are going to keep this in a single position. But what I can say is that you can set up a zone just like that. And you can set up a zone for each different type of person. So I have a person zone. I set up a vehicle zone. You can do this for each of these types of things. And again, that flexibility is great with Reolink. Motion masking, on or off, that's going to put a box around a moving target, letting you kind of hone in on what's moving a little more easily. Here we have alarm settings, sensitivity, smart detection. How sensitive do you want the alarms to be? So you can adjust for person, for pet, for animal. I love all the customization that Reolink gives you. You can make this camera your own and only get notified or only have actions happen when something falls into what you want. And that also goes with object size. So you can set up the minimum size for an object or the maximum size for a person, for a vehicle, for an animal. So if I wanted an animal to be a minimum size, and then it gives you a box, and I say, this is as small as I want, anything smaller than that, just ignore it. Or I could say maximum size. Well, I get some pretty big deer in my backyard. So anything bigger than that, just ignore it. But that's all done in the object size. Here we have auto tracking. So under detection alarm, this is where you find your auto tracking. You turn that on and off, and then you can set tracking type, person, vehicle, or animal. I only have people and animals in my backyard, so that's what I have set there. And then we have tracking method. As you might imagine, PT. If you don't have tracking on, you can't track things using the PT. Horizontal tracking range. How far left to right do you want this to track somebody? So you can limit it. I went through setting this up by selecting settings. Actually, I cleared it, then hit settings, and then here it's going to show you the furthest left point and the furthest right point that I will allow it to track something. And then schedule. Well, when do you want this enabled for? Well, I want it all the time, but if you ever wanted to disable it, you simply come in here and you would select something and disable or enable, and then days of the week. I'm going to leave that on because I want it on all the time. And then object stops. Time to stop tracking. If something stops for, in this case, default is 20 seconds, but I can do 10 seconds, 30 seconds, or 60 seconds, and then it'll stop tracking. And then object disappears for 10, 20, 30, 60, and this is when it would return to its home state. Moving on, we have camera recording. Obviously, is it recording? Yes or no? Schedule. This is important. Right now, I have detection turned off. This is what we would get for those clips, because over here, under timer, this is where it would do continuous recording. This is where it does that. So you would need to, you can keep the alarms on if you wanted to, but you do have to come in here to set up 24/7 recording. It's not on by default. I feel that this should be on by default, especially since this is the big thing that this camera does, this battery powered camera with 24/7 recording. Just know you have to stop in the schedule if that's what you want. Post motion recording, 8, 15, and 30. And then what do you want to happen with the files? Overwrite interval. In this case, I just say override the oldest. You can do older than 1 day all the way up to 30 days. Push notification, well, I have this turned off during my testing period, but I can turn this on and it will send me a push notification. So alarm, what type of ringtone do we want to give this? I'm going to put it as general, and then schedule. When do you want this to happen? I'm going to say all the time. So now if it gets any motion, it will send me a notification letting me know that. You also have the ability to do email alerts. You can set that up and it will send you, similar to how you would get a notification on your phone, an email alert letting you know, hey, something has been detected. FTP, well, I have that off, but here this will allow you to transfer data encrypted method using FTP. If you know what that is, that's where you find that setting. Have at it. Siren, well, I have this off because if you turn this on, what will happen is if something passes through and sets it off, it's going to set off a siren. And here you can see I can set up a custom siren setting if I wanted to. Hey, you get off my lawn. What are you doing there? You shouldn't be there. Go away. And now it's sending that information to the device itself so that if it triggers, it'll sound like this.
Hey, you get off my lawn. What are you doing there? You shouldn't be there. Go away.
And we're going to apply and put that into place. And you can come in here and change your custom sound if you wanted to. You also have the ability to have the default sound. You also have a pre-alarm sound, meaning when motion is detected before your actual sound goes off, this will go off, giving the people the opportunity to leave of their own volition. And then you can schedule this as to when you'd like that to happen. Reolink also allows you to do time-lapse, which I really like. So if I come up here, I can say override the time-lapse files, and I could say try now. Moving clouds, sunrise, sunset, construction, blooming. These are all pre-programmed ones. Or you can come in to say custom, and I'll do it myself. Capture when, starting now, how long, interval between the shots, quality, and then video. Well, do I want photo? Do I want a video? Well, you time-lapse, you really want a video. That's all in there. Like there are other cameras that do time-lapse, but do not let you have the level of adjustability, customization that this has. File encryption on or off. Well, if you turn this on, you'll need to set up a security code. But what this will do is all of those video files on your SD card, you would need the PIN code in order to actually activate them. You can't just throw them into another camera and be able to access them. And then down here we have advanced mode. Sharing this device, you can share this device with somebody, but they'll need a Reolink account. Illegal login lockout, meaning if somebody tries to log into the camera too many times with the password for the camera, it will lock them out. Change device password, because yes, you have your Reolink account password, but the device itself has its own password, which is great for security. And then date and time you can adjust as you see fit. You can then also reboot and restore your camera from this advanced settings. From settings, you can log out of the device or you can delete the device. And that is everything that we can do for the Reolink Atlas PT Ultra in the Reolink app. With the very, very robust application out of the way and great hardware, what's next? Well, for me, that's actual testing. I want to make sure that the camera lives up to what its actual claims are. First being, for me, audio. The audio was pretty good, all things considered. The camera ball itself houses the microphones while the speaker resides on the back. It is kind of a smaller speaker, so you're not going to get super, super loud audio from this. However, the audio that you get from the mic is more than acceptable. Let's take a listen.
Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Test 1, test 2, test 3, and test.
Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Test 1, test 2, test 3, and test.
Pretty quiet, can't hear anything. Moving on, video tests. This camera takes 4K video. How does that actually look? Over there in the corner, I will have a link to a video with the raw video samples that I took from this camera so that you can see them in their 4K glory and not downscaled for this 1080 video. What I will say is, during the day, the video images are good and sharp and well defined. When we get to low light, looks very much like other competitors' daylight videos. Objects and people are still defined and clear. Once we start getting into night mode or dark, with no LEDs turned on, the Color X night vision can see in the dark with only very little ambient light around. The trade-off for this is, however, artifacting and ghosting because of the very large aperture that you need to have in order to support that kind of video. If you use the LEDs, it does cut down on the ghosting and artifacting, which is great. And the LEDs themselves have a nice throw distance, allowing you to illuminate a very good distance from the camera. Next, detection settings. How quickly does it alert you when motion is actually detected? Yes, it does have the pre-roll and the post-roll, meaning you won't miss the clip in its entirety, but you do still need to know when it actually detects something. What I can say, PIR sensor with that smiley face right there did a very good job of notifying me within a short amount of time. Let's take a look.
This will be a notification speed test on 5G. About there is where the camera's viewpoint starts. So as soon as I hit that, I will start the countdown timer. Here we go. So about here it should see me. Waiting for the notification. Right there. Alright, so between 5 and 6 seconds. Not terrible. And considering it's completely battery powered and will follow you.
Even with all the industry firsts that this camera does and the great qualities that it has, nothing is perfect, and it's no exception for the Altas. There are some cons that I think you should be aware of. First, Reolink touts this as the first continuous recording outdoor camera, and they're right. The problem is, that's not turned on by default. You actually have to go into your settings to set that up. Yes, it is a minor nuisance, but just be aware of that. It's not going to come out of the box set up to do that. The battery life and record times vary depending on all the settings that you use. If you're going to use this for maximum pre-roll and post-roll and LEDs, it's going to eat through the battery much quicker than the stated 8 days of battery life. Just setting your expectations. There's a lot of customization, which is great, but if you're trying to be a super power user, you're going to really eat through the battery of this, which is why that solar panel is very helpful. One of the oddities that I came across is when trying to charge this inside, in order for it to actually get a good charge or to charge, you got to turn off a lot of the options. You have to turn off the pre-roll, you have to turn off the continuous recording, you have to turn off the camera. There's a lot of switches that you need to do in order to make sure that this charges in some sort of reliable fashion. Maybe Reolink have an automatic switch when it detects that it's being charged, not via the solar panel. Firmware update perhaps.
If you do continuous mode, the LEDs will be on. They'll be on low, but they'll eat up battery.
While the camera does support target tracking, it did have an issue tracking faster moving targets. As I ran through a frame, it did lose track of me, which again is not terrible, but if you need this for faster moving targets, just a data point for you. Speaking of those moving targets, you do get motor sounds in the recording if you're recording audio from this. So you will hear the camera moving and tilting as it tracks and looks at something. And the last small gripe for me is this back here. Reolink, I love, always provides you with multiple ways of mounting something, including their straps. I love the straps. However, it is just their generic strap. It does not just slip in there as nicely as I would like. And I know with that one in particular, I'm splitting hairs, but I'm just setting up your expectations and giving you data points for this really robust camera. What is my conclusion? The Reolink Altas PT Ultra addresses many of the issues that face battery-powered outdoor cameras, primarily being able to record continuously and track targets. With its impressive 4K resolution and ColorX night technology and robust customizability in the feature-rich Reolink app, make this a great option for those seeking a reliable battery-powered outdoor camera. While it may not be perfect, its combination of features make it a solid choice. Anybody who needs a battery-powered pan-tilt camera that will go above and beyond what is expected of it. Because of that, I can strongly recommend the Reolink Altas PT Ultra. If this sounds like the battery-powered outdoor camera you've been looking for, I will have a link for where you can pick one up for yourself in the description area below. If you appreciate the time and effort that goes into making a comprehensive video like this, make sure to hit that like button to help other people find the video as well. If you like what I'm doing here and want to be notified of my next review, hit that subscribe button. Still not sure if this is the right battery-powered pan-tilt outdoor camera for you? On screen now, you'll see 2 other cameras that I've reviewed to help you make a more informed decision for yourself.